Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something that pretty much every JavaScript developer bumps into. You know, that classic problem where you want to use all the cool new stuff, but you also have to make sure your code actually works for everybody. I mean, of course you do, right? You see these awesome new operators, these powerful functions, and you're just thinking, man, I can't wait to refactor my code and build some amazing things with these tools. But there's the catch. You ship your shiny new code, feeling great about it, and then the reports start coming in. Your app is totally broken for a bunch of users who just happen to be on slightly older browsers. It's super frustrating, but believe me, it is a very common problem. So yeah, that's the heart of the problem we're digging into today. It's this gap between how incredibly fast the JavaScript language is evolving and how fast browsers all over the world can actually catch up and adopt those new features. You've got to remember, JavaScript isn't set in stone. It's always changing. We've had these huge game-changing updates like ES6 back in 2015, which just unleashed a ton of new features. And we get smaller but still really useful things like the dull operator in 2020. The language is basically a living thing, and new ideas are popping up constantly. So here's the bottom line. Just because a feature is officially part of the language specification, that doesn't mean every browser out there magically understands it overnight. There's always this lag time, and your code needs to be ready for it. Okay, so let's get into the solution, because thankfully, you don't actually have to choose between writing modern code and supporting your users. There are a couple of, let's call them secret weapons, that let you have the best of both worlds. And here they are, transpilers and polyfills. You've got to have these two in your toolkit as a modern web dev. They work together, but they each solve a different piece of this compatibility puzzle, and the end result is that your cutting-edge code can run pretty much anywhere. All right, first up, transpilers. The way to think about these is that they're your syntax specialists. They deal with the actual grammar and structure of the code that you're writing. So what is a transpiler? It's basically a translator, but instead of translating, say, English to Spanish, it translates new JavaScript into old JavaScript. You write your code using all the modern features, and it rewrites it into an older version that does the exact same thing. And here is a perfect example. Look at that modern code on top. So clean and simple with the question mark operator. An old browser would see that and just throw an error. But the transpiler takes that line and automatically turns it into the code you see on the bottom. Sure, it's a little more verbose, but it does the exact same thing, and it uses syntax that even a really old browser will understand. You've probably heard of Babel. It's pretty much the industry standard for this stuff. And you know, the best part is that in most modern projects, Babel just runs in the background. It's part of your build process, so you just write your modern code, and it takes care of the translation automatically. You don't even have to think about it. Okay, let's move on to our second tool, polyfills. Now, these build on what we just talked about. Transpilers handle syntax, right? Well, polyfills handle a whole different problem, missing functionality. Exactly. So sometimes the issue isn't new grammar or a new operator. Sometimes you're trying to call a function, like math.trunk, for example, that just, well, it just doesn't exist in an older JavaScript engine. The browser has no idea what you're talking about, and your code crashes. And that is where polyfill comes to the rescue. The name is actually perfect. It fills in the gaps in a browser's feature set. It's just a little snippet of code that checks if a function is missing, and if it is, it creates it. It's like teaching an old browser a new trick. The logic is actually really simple and elegant. First, the polyfill script just asks the browser, hey, do you know what math.trunk is? If the browser says no, the script says, no problem, here you go, and it defines the function right then and there. This little check and define pattern means that by the time your own code starts to run, you're guaranteed that the function exists. No errors, no problems. And the good news is, just like with transpilers, you don't have to go around writing all these yourself. There are huge libraries out there, like Core.js, that have polyfills for pretty much any modern JavaScript feature you can think of. You just include what you need, and you're good to go. So, let's bring all of this together. You now have these two incredibly powerful concepts in your toolkit. They're different, for sure, but they work together to give you total freedom as a developer. This table breaks it down perfectly. A transpiler fixes syntax, and it does its magic before your code even gets to the browser. A polyfill, on the other hand, fixes missing functions, and it does its work inside the browser right when the code is running. Two different problems, two clever solutions, one fantastic result. Your code works everywhere. And honestly, this is the whole point. This is what should really stick with you. The fact that transpilers and polyfills exist means you should never, ever be afraid to learn and use the latest and greatest JavaScript features. These tools are here to empower you to write cleaner, more powerful code, and to do it with confidence. And hey, if you're ever just not sure what's supported where, these two websites are your best friends. That compatibility table is amazing for core language features, and caniuse.com is just the gold standard for everything else. APIs, CSS, you name it. Definitely keep these bookmarked. They're lifesavers. So the next time you read about some cool new feature coming to JavaScript, don't think, oh, that's nice. Maybe I'll use that in a couple of years. No way. Thanks to transpilers and polyfills, you can start using it today. So go for it. What are you going to build?